That night at dinner changed everything. My daughter-in-law suddenly stood up, grabbed the pot of boiling soup from the table, and poured it all over my arm. The pain was instant. I screamed as my skin burned. And do you know what she said? She looked at me with a smirk and told me to stop being dramatic, that I deserved it. My son, my own son, just sat there, silent, watching it happen. The woman I once welcomed with open arms had turned into a monster right before my eyes, and the boy I raised let it happen. I clutched my burned arm and walked out of their house, each step heavier than the last. That night, while I sat alone in my apartment with tears streaming down my face, I made a decision, one that would shake their perfect little world. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and please tell me and others what's one life lesson everyone should hear before it's too late. Share it in the comments below. Thanks. When Ryan first invited me over, I thought it would be a simple family dinner, maybe even a chance to feel close again. I even brought a cake from his favorite childhood bakery, hoping to see that smile I missed so much. But the moment I stepped in, the air felt cold. Emily barely looked up from her phone, mumbling a quick hi, while Ryan tried to act cheerful, but kept glancing at her like he was scared of saying the wrong thing. I slid the cake across the table. "It's from that old bakery on Main," I said softly. Emily glanced up, her eyes cold. "You really shouldn't waste money on things you can't afford." Her words cut deep, but I swallowed the hurt. "I didn't want to fight. It's just a little treat," I whispered. Ryan stayed quiet, pretending to focus on his plate, and my chest tightened. Was this what it had come to, me walking on eggshells in my own son's home? I tried to lighten the mood. "How's work?" "Still busy with those new clients." That's when Emily slammed her spoon down and snapped. "Why do you always bring up work? You think you're helping, but you just make it worse." I was stunned. Before I could explain, she cut me off, her voice sharp. "You know what really stresses us? Covering for you all the time." My stomach dropped. Covering for me? I'd never asked for her help. She laughed bitterly. "Oh, come on. Who do you think pays when Ryan slips you money? We're drowning, and you sit there like a queen." Ryan finally looked up, but instead of defending me, he just kept staring at his plate. My heart sank. And then it happened. Emily grabbed the pot from the center of the table and hurled it at me. Boiling soup splashed across my arm. I screamed, the pain seared like fire, tearing through my skin. Emily just sneered. "Stop being so dramatic. You deserve this." I looked at Ryan, praying he'd say something, anything, but he didn't move. He didn't speak. My arm throbbed, blisters already forming, and my heart broke in that silence. Trembling, I pushed back my chair and walked out into the cold night, every step heavier than the last. The burn was unbearable, but the ache in my chest was worse. By the time I reached my apartment, I could barely turn the key. The moment the door closed behind me, I collapsed. Ugly, painful sobs tore out of me as I shoved my arm under cold water. My skin was blistered, angry, raw. Why? What did I do to deserve this? I whispered through tears. I thought about Ryan, how I raised him alone after his father died, how I worked double shifts, skipped meals, sacrificed everything for him. And tonight, he just sat there, silent, watching. My phone buzzed. My heart leapt. Maybe it was Ryan, finally apologizing. I picked up, my hand shaking. His voice came through flat, cautious. "Mom, about tonight." I cut him off. "Ryan, she threw boiling soup on me. My arm is burned, and you just sat there." He sighed. "Emily didn't mean it. She's just stressed. Bills, work, everything. Don't take it so personally." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Ryan," I sat there with my skin stinging, my pride shattered. "And you asked me to understand her. You said I was pushing her." My stomach dropped. "Pushing her by asking about work. That's what you call pushing." Then your voice turned cold. "You told me maybe I should stop coming around because I make things tense." For a second, I couldn't even breathe. My own son telling me I was the problem. I forced the words out through the lump in my throat. "Wow, Ryan, after everything I've done for you, after every sacrifice, this is what I get." "Mom, please," you said, soft but final, like you just wanted me gone. "I just need peace in my house." His house, not mine. His words cut deeper than the burn on my arm. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering against the floor. I slid down beside it, pulled my knees to my chest with my good arm, and cried until my throat ached and my eyes swelled shut. When the tears finally ran out, the silence was worse. It pressed in, heavy, smothering. I looked around at my tiny apartment, peeling paint, faded curtains, furniture older than Ryan himself. This was it. This was all I had. No family who wanted me, no one to call, just pain and memories. For a moment, I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the rest of my life, just fading away, alone. But then, something inside me stirred, small at first, like the faint glow of an ember. I pressed a towel against my arm and winced as the burn flared, but through the pain, I whispered to the empty room, never again will I let them treat me like this. The next morning, I woke with my arm throbbing, the bandage stiff where the ointment had dried. Every movement sent a sharp sting through my skin, but the silence that hurt more. No text, no call from Ryan, nothing. I dragged myself into the kitchen, wincing as I lifted the coffee pot with my injured arm. The phone buzzed. My heart leapt Ryan, but when I looked, it was Emily. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. Then, I answered, my voice cracked from the long night. Hello. Her voice was flat, almost bored. Look, about last night. I held my breath, waiting for an apology. It never came. Don't make this a big deal, she said. My grip on the phone tightened. A big deal. Emily, you burned me. Do you understand that? My arm, she cut me off with a laugh. God, you're still on that. Ryan and I talked, and honestly, we agree we can't keep helping you anymore. We have our own lives, our own bills. You get that, right? My stomach twisted. Helping me. I never asked for her help. Please, she scoffed. Who do you think covers for you when Ryan slips you money? You act so innocent, but you've been draining us. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Memories rushed in instead. All the years I worked myself sick so Ryan could have a future. The birthdays I missed because I was working nights. The worn clothes I patched so he could wear new ones. And here she was, talking like I was nothing but a burden. Emily, I said slowly, my voice trembling. You're living in a house you didn't buy, eating food I didn't ask for, and you have the nerve, she snapped before I could finish. Oh, here we go, playing the victim again. Maybe try being grateful for once, instead of acting like the world owes you. My throat burned. I whispered, grateful for what? For the scars on my arm. For your insults. Silence. Then she muttered, whatever. Just don't call Ryan today. He's stressed enough. And hung up. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. My chest rose and fell in short bursts. I sank into the nearest chair, gripping the edge until my knuckles turned white. That woman, her smug voice, her twisted words telling me I should be grateful when everything they had, every comfort in that house, came from me. I sat there for a long time. The pain in my arm was nothing compared to the fire spreading inside me. In that moment, the guilt I felt for walking out last night was gone, burned away just like my skin. My eyes drifted to the drawer against the wall, the one I hadn't opened in years. Slowly, I stood, ignoring the throbbing in my arm, and pulled it open. A cloud of dust rose as I slid out a thick, worn folder. I ran my fingers along its edge, and for the first time since last night, I felt a smile tug at my lips. If Emily thought I was powerless, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I set the folder on the table and opened it. Inside were papers I hadn't looked at in years, deeds, receipts, documents stamped with my name. My eyes locked on the title deed for the house Ryan and Emily called theirs. A sharp heat rose in my chest, hotter than the soup Emily had thrown at me. That house wasn't theirs, it was mine. Every wall, every floorboard, every single inch of it I paid for it with 20 years of hard work. The long nights, the double shifts, the times I walked home in the dark because I couldn't even afford, 'cause all of it was for that roof, for Ryan's future. When he married Emily, I thought I was doing the right thing, letting them live there rent-free. I wanted to give them a good start. I never bragged, never said, this is my house. I believed family didn't need paperwork to prove love. But now, Emily lounging in my living room, insulting me, calling me a burden, that thought made me laugh, sharp and bitter. I imagined her face when she finally learned the truth. Ryan's words echoed in my head. I just need peace in my house. His house. I gripped the deed tighter. Not your house, Ryan, I whispered. Not hers either. Mine. I sat down and began pulling papers from the folder. Tax receipts, the original deed, proof of ownership. My hands moved fast, fueled by something I hadn't felt in years: control. For once, I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was planning. I could call them right now and tell them the truth, but no. They'd twist it, talk over me, make me sound crazy like always. This time, it had to be clean, legal, and undeniable. My arm throbbed under the bandage as I picked up a pen. I didn't care. Pain didn't matter anymore. They wanted me out of their lives. Fine. I'd give them exactly what they wanted, on my terms. Emily thought I'd just disappear after the soup she threw at me. She had no idea the storm she'd set off. I tucked the papers back into the folder with a snap and caught my reflection in the window. I didn't look broken anymore. I looked like a woman with a plan. I opened my laptop and typed 3 simple words: notice to vacate. With each word, I felt calmer, like I was stitching up an old wound. I wrote their names, picturing Emily's smug little smirk. Not anymore. This time, the law was on my side. I read the notice again and again, making sure there were no mistakes, no loopholes, no mercy. 30 days to leave my house. The printer spat out the pages like judgment itself. Holding them in my hands, I felt it power, not anger, not sadness, real power. I picked up the phone and called Mark, an old friend who worked in real estate law. Mark, I said, if I own the property, I can legally evict them with 30 days notice. Right, he chuckled. Of course. You're the legal owner. They don't have a leg to stand on. Good, I whispered. That was all I needed. When I hung up, I folded laundry with my good arm, one shirt at a time. Almost funny, really planning to tear down their comfortable little world while doing something so ordinary. But that's how betrayal works. It hides in the everyday, in dinners and family smiles, until one day it cuts you open. I thought of Ryan, the little boy who used to beg me for bedtime stories. My chest ached so badly I had to sit down. I whispered his name like maybe he could hear me. But then I remembered his cold voice on the phone. Maybe you should stop coming around so often. That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. They wanted me gone. Fine, but they were going first. I slid the notice into a crisp white envelope and wrote their names across the front in bold, steady strokes. I slipped it into my purse, zipped it closed, and felt like I was sealing a promise. Tomorrow morning, I'd walk right up that driveway and hand it to them myself. I barely slept. The envelope sat on my nightstand like a ticking clock, daring me to follow through. When the sun finally rose, I got dressed carefully. Not fancy, not casual, just steady, ready. I wanted to look like a woman who meant business, not someone begging for scraps. My arm ached as I slipped on my coat, but the sting almost felt like a badge, now a reminder of why I was doing this. By the time I pulled up in front of the house, my heart was pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. I parked, grabbed the envelope, and walked straight up the driveway. Emily opened the door with that fake sweetness plastered across her face. "Wow, you're up early," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "What?" "Here to apologize." I felt my lips curve into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No," I said calmly, holding the envelope out. "This is for you." Her smirk flickered as she took it. "What is this?" she snapped, the sweetness gone. "Open it," I said. She tore it open, eyes darting over the first line. The color drained from her face. "Notice to vacate." Her voice shot up an octave. "Are you insane?" Ryan appeared behind her, still in his t-shirt, hair sticking up. "What's going on?" "She's kicking us out." Emily shoved the paper at him. Ryan read it, and his face went pale. "Mom, what is this?" I kept my voice even. "Tisp. Exactly what it says. You have 30 days to move out of my house." Emily let out a laugh that cracked halfway through. "Your house? That's hilarious. This is Ryan's inheritance." I tilted my head and met her eyes. "No, Emily, never was. Check the name on that deed if you don't believe me." Ryan looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You own this place." I nodded slowly. "Every inch of it. Paid for with every sacrifice I ever made." Emily's face twisted. Her voice rose, sharp and panicked. "You can't do this to us. Where are we supposed to go? We have bills, responsibilities." "Not my problem," I said, my voice like steel. 30 days, not a day more." Ryan stepped forward, his voice cracking. "Mom, please, let's talk about this." I cut him off with a raised hand. "Talk? Where was this concern when she burned me? When you stood there and said nothing? When you told me to stop coming around?" His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Emily clutched his arm. glaring at me like she could burn holes through me. "You're evil," she spat. "You'll regret this." I looked her dead in the eye, calm, steady. "No, Emily, you will." Before either of them could speak again, I turned, walked down the driveway, and didn't look back. Their voices followed me, sharp and desperate, but I shut the car door and let the sound fade as I drove away. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe without choking. The phone buzzed before I even reached home. I ignored it at first, thinking it was them, but then I saw the names: my sister-in-law, my niece, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Emily had already started her campaign. I let most calls go to voicemail, but when Aunt Marie called again, I answered. "What is wrong with you?" she shouted before I could say a word. "Throwing your own son out of his home. Are you out of your mind?" My throat tightened. "His home," I said slowly. "Marie, that house, don't you start," she snapped. "Emily told us everything. You're bitter and trying to ruin their lives. You should be ashamed." Bitter. The word almost made me laugh. If they only knew. But what was the point? They'd already picked their side. I ended the call without another word and let the phone fall onto the table. More messages poured in, some angry, some dripping with fake concern. "Is this really necessary? He's your only son. Think of the baby." The word baby hit me like a slap. Emily was pregnant. She hadn't said a word. My chest tightened, but I shoved it down. I couldn't let that weaken me. Not now. I went to the stove and started cooking, just to keep my hands busy chopping onions, stirring the pan, anything to keep from drowning in thoughts. But no matter how hard I tried, the voices echoed in my head. Every insult, every lie Emily had fed them. She wanted to make me the villain. Fine, let her. I didn't need their approval anymore. As I sat down with my simple meal, the phone buzzed. Again. Ryan. My chest tightened, hope clawing its way back in. Maybe this was it. Maybe he'd finally realized the truth. I picked up slowly. "Mom." His voice was low, almost broken. "We need to talk." My hand froze around the fork. Something in his tone told me this wasn't going to be simple. "Mom, please," he said. "Just don't hang up." His voice cracked through the speaker, raw and shaky. I forced my tone flat. "I'm listening." There was a pause. Then he let out a heavy breath. "Emily told me what you did. The eviction. 30 days. Really? How could you do that to us?" I closed my eyes and gripped the edge of the table. "How could I, Ryan? She burned me. She humiliated me in front of you. And you just sat there, like a stranger." Silence, then a weak excuse. I didn't know what to do. The laugh that slipped out of me was bitter. "You didn't know what to do when your wife threw boiling soup on your mother. You couldn't even say her name without choking, but you let her treat me like dirt." This time he didn't argue. His voice softened instead. "Mom, Emily's pregnant." The words hit harder than I expected. My hand trembled, anger cracking just enough to let shock through. "Pregnant," I whispered. "And you think the best way to raise that child is by standing behind a woman who attacks people?" "She's stressed," he rushed out. "She's scared. I'm scared. We're trying to figure things out. And now this. You're making it worse." My hands slammed the table before I could stop myself. "Making it worse. Ryan, I spent my whole life making things better for you. I worked until my body broke so you could have everything I never had. And this is what I get." His breath hitched. "I know what you've done for me. I'm grateful. But please, just cancel the notice. We'll work something out." I gripped the phone so hard my fingers ached. Part of me wanted to say yes, to take away the desperation in his voice. But then I remembered standing in his kitchen, soup searing my skin, while he said nothing. I remembered his cold words. "Maybe you should stop coming around." That wasn't a slip. That was the truth. "No," I said finally, my voice calm, almost gentle. "This is happening, Mom," he started. "You have 28 days left, Ryan. Make them count." I ended the call before he could answer. My heart pounded, my stomach twisted, but I knew one thing: I couldn't turn back now. The pounding on my door started minutes later, heavy, relentless. I knew who it was. I didn't rush. I walked slowly, steady, and opened the door. Emily stood there, hair wild, makeup smeared, eyes blazing. She shoved past me without asking, slamming the door behind her. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she screamed, her voice shaking the walls. "You think you can just throw us out like garbage?" I stayed still. "Get out, Emily." "No," she snapped, stepping closer. "You're not doing this to me. You've ruined everything." Ryan and I were fine until you pulled this stunt. You just can't stand to see us happy, can you? This isn't about happiness, I said evenly. It's about what you did to me. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please, you're still crying about some soup. You're so dramatic, always, have been. You live for pity. My hands curled at my sides, but I didn't move. You assaulted me in my own son's home. And now you call me dramatic. She laughed, sharp and mocking. Home. That's Ryan's house, not yours. He told me everything. He's done with your games. I took a slow breath. You really believe that? That you can insult me, hurt me, and keep living under my roof? Her mouth twisted into a smirk. Your roof, please. You're delusional. You have nothing, and we both know it. That's why you're doing this. You're bitter and lonely. And you hate that Ryan has a real family now. Guess what? You'll die alone, and nobody will care. My stomach clenched, but I kept my face steady. Instead, I picked up my phone from the table. Camera already recording. Her eyes flickered. What are you doing? Making sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are, I said. Every word you've said, it's all on record. For the first time since she barged in, she went silent. Her jaw tightened. Her chest rose and fell in quick bursts. Then she pointed a trembling finger at me. You think this makes you strong? You'll regret it. Get out, I said, my voice like steel. She hesitated, then spun on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Silence, just my own breathing. I looked down at the phone in my hand, the video still running. Every threat, every insult captured. I saved the file, set the phone on the table, and sat with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. Emily thought she could scare me into giving up. She had no idea she'd just handed me proof. The next day, I parked down the street so they wouldn't see me. A moving truck was already backed up to the driveway, men hauling out boxes stacked high. My heart thudded against my ribs as I gripped the steering wheel. This was it. The day they finally left my house. Emily appeared in the doorway first, barking orders like a queen without a throne. Oversized sunglasses masked her swollen eyes, though no amount of makeup could cover what was broken beneath. Ryan trailed behind, head down, carrying a box that looked heavier than both of them combined. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. Their faces said, enough rage, embarrassment, defeat. A tiny part of me wanted to get out of the car, to tell Ryan I never wanted it to come to this. Another part wanted to scream at both of them for turning me into the villain in my own son's life. Instead, I stayed silent. This was the choice. They made the night they let respect die at the dinner table. Emily's gaze swept toward the street like she could feel me watching. For a moment, her eyes flickered over my car. I ducked slightly, though I wasn't hiding anymore. Not from her. Not from anyone. When the last piece of furniture disappeared into the truck, she slammed the door so hard I imagined the glass rattling. She yanked Ryan toward the car, her lips moving fast, venom spilling out of her like smoke. He didn't look at her. Didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead, the way a man does when he's already tired of the life he's living. When their car pulled away, I waited until the street was empty before pulling into the driveway. My driveway, the key slid into the lock like it had been waiting for me all this time. Inside, the silence hit first. No shouting, no laughter, no voices, just emptiness. I walked through the rooms, slowly, my steps echoing off bare walls. In the kitchen, a single piece of paper waited on the counter. My stomach clenched. A note. No, a sonogram photo. The grainy outline stared back at me, my hands shaking around its edges. For a moment the air left my lungs. A baby. They were really having a baby. I pressed my lips together, holding back the storm clawing inside me. I wanted to hate Emily more than I already did, but all I could see was Ryan's future in that picture. A child who'd never known me. A family I'd already lost. My knees nearly buckled, but I gripped the counter and stayed upright. This wasn't the ending I pictured, but it was the one I had. At the kitchen table, I stared at the photo until the silence pressed too heavy. I pulled out a sheet of paper and uncapped a pen. My hand trembled. The first line came slowly. Ryan, I never wanted this. The words blurred through tears. I wrote about the nights I worked through blisters and exhaustion just so he'd have shoes without holes. I wrote about the years of loneliness I endured because loving him was enough. I wrote about Emily, how I tried, how I swallowed every insult, every cold glance for his sake. And then I wrote the words I never thought I would. I'm sorry it came to this. I'm sorry for you, for your child, for the family we'll never be. I folded the letter carefully, pressing the creases like I could hold my broken heart together. I sealed it in an envelope and held it for a long time. Part of me wanted to send it, to remind him that beneath the anger I was still his mother, but then I pictured Emily reading over his shoulder, twisting my words into poison. That thought killed the last bit of hope. I carried the envelope to the bedroom and tucked it into the drawer with old photographs. My fingers lingered on it. Goodbye, my son, I whispered. The silence answered back. The house looked different now, brighter somehow, even with the bare walls. I stood in the living room, paint roller in hand, watching a soft cream color spread over the dull gray Emily once demanded. Every stroke felt like wiping away a stain, every bucket of paint like erasing years of disrespect. The scar on my arm caught the light. I didn't hide it anymore. It was my reminder proof that I survived, and a warning never to give anyone that much power over me again. I pulled the ladder over to the next wall, and my phone buzzed on the counter. For a second, I froze, heart jumping the way it always did. But of course, it wasn't Ryan. It hadn't been Ryan for weeks. I set the phone back down and climbed the ladder, steady this time. No shaky hands, no tears, just me in the paint. When I finished, I walked through the empty bedrooms, picturing the family who'd be moving in soon. Mom, Dad, 2 kids, and a golden retriever. At least, that's what their application said. I imagined them paying rent on time, waving hello in the mornings, and never ever throwing soup in my face. Closing the last door, I let out a long breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table with a hot cup of tea and my laptop open. Greece, Italy, maybe even Japan. The list of places stretched in front of me. For the first time ever, I could actually go anywhere, anytime. Number 1 to roll their eyes. No one to tell me I was too much, too dramatic, or just plain wrong. Just me and the world I had been waiting to see. Before I could talk myself out of it, I booked a ticket to Santorini. This time, when I smiled, it was real, not the stiff kind you fake for family pictures. The light caught the scar on my arm, and instead of flinching, I traced it gently, not with shame, but with pride. I had made it through betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation. Here I was, still standing, stronger than before. I picked up the sonogram photo and carried it to the drawer where the letter still rested. For a moment, I looked at them both, feeling that old ache press against my chest. Then, quietly, I laid them side by side and closed the drawer. Some goodbyes don't come with speeches. They come with silence, with acceptance, with shutting the door and walking away. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and set it by the door. Tomorrow, I'd begin living for myself, and for the first time, in years, that didn't feel selfish. It felt like freedom. That's today's story. If it touched you, leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget, share your own life lesson in the comments below.